Hi, welcome to you all in today's class. So I am your TA. My name is Shankho, and today we all are in this online platform for the first online live class regarding the advanced calculus for engineers. And I hope that you have all watched the past week's video content released by NPTEL itself by Professor Jitendra Kumar, and there are some problems which I fixed for you, some extra problems. I hope these problems are you will solve on your own, but still to help you I am with you. So without a delay, let's start. So first of all, we will try to determine some of the limits of some of the functions. So first of all, we will try to evaluate the limit. So just watch it carefully. So our first problem is we need to determine limit x tends to infinity x square plus 3x by x square plus x plus 1. So this type of functions we call it to be rational functions, right? Why they are called rational functions? Because it is just a in the numerator part you have one polynomial, and the denominator part you have once again a polynomial, right? So but be careful, we have to take the limit x tends to plus infinity sense. Okay, so before going into the solutions, can you have any some input on how to solve this problem? Anyone? Anyone have anything to say regarding this problem? That limit x tends to infinity x square plus 3x by x square plus x plus 1. Okay, so actually this class is about live discussion sort of thing. Okay, so I request those 3 or 4 people who have joined, so please respond and interact, because it is an online platform, so we need to interact with one another so that I can more I can understand that what you are feeling, or whether you are with me or not. Okay, so just try to give some input to me also, be it foolish, be it wrong, I don't mind, just respond with me. Okay, so I request all of the 3 or 4 people who have joined to respond with me. So the first problem, anyone wants to give any sort of input, that limit x tends to infinity x square plus 3x by x square plus x plus 1, how to solve it? Okay, so see, limit x tends to infinity, the above there is x square plus 3x divided by x square plus x plus 1. So how we will solve this problem? See, limit x tends to infinity x square plus 3x, x square plus x plus 1 in the denominator part. So what we will do? We will just divide the numerator as well as the denominator by 1 by x. We all divide the numerator as well as the denominator by the highest power of x. So here in the numerator, what is the highest power? X square, and in the denominator once again x square. Okay, so what we will do? We will just divide the numerator with x square as well as the denominator with x square. So what this sort of division will give us? That limit x tends to infinity 1 plus 3 by x, because you are dividing by x square. So So that will be 1 plus 3 by x, and once again the denominator part, once again you are taking derivative with respect to x square, sorry, you are dividing with respect to x square. So that also will give you 1 plus 1 by x plus 1 by x square. Now since x tends to infinity, what does it mean? X tends to infinity, it implies that 1 by x tends to 0 plus, right? And what does 0 plus means? This 0 plus means that you are approaching towards 0 from the right hand side of 0. That means you are approaching from the positive side. So if 1 by x tends to 0 plus, what does it give? That 1 plus 3 into 0, 1 plus 0 plus 0 square in the limit sense. So what will be the answer? The answer will be 1. Are you with me? So what will be the answer of this problem? Limit x tends to infinity, x square plus 3x by x square plus x plus 1. The answer will be 1. Okay, so next move to the next problem. So anybody has any sort of doubt regarding this problem? Please respond with me, okay? So that, and also if you have any queries, feel free to ask me, because it is just an online platform for me also to learn, right? And if you want to give me any sort of input, I will give you my institutional email ID. You please mail me regarding any sort of problem, okay? Okay, so now we will move to the next problem. Limit x tends to plus infinity, sin x by x plus cosine x. So what we will do now? Limit x tends to plus infinity, sin x by x plus cos x. So we all know these sine and cosine functions, right? We all know these sine and cosine functions. Can anybody please tell me that one or two fundamental properties of this sine and cosine function? Any, when I say sin x, what comes in your mind immediately? Anything? So first of all, sin x is a bounded function, right? The value of sin x cannot exceed minus 1 or 1. The value of sin x will always lie within minus 1 and 1, right? So also same goes for cosine x. Cosine x is also a bounded function, and more importantly you can say one more property, that sin x and cos x are actually periodic functions, right? The periodicity is 2 pi. So sin x by x plus cos x. So anybody wants to give any feedback regarding this problem? Will you try, or I will just discuss the solution? Will you give a try? Now I request you everybody to please follow what the online videos are like. When they are revealing the online videos, I request all of you to go through at least those videos, okay? So sin x by x plus cos x, how to solve this problem? Okay, so see, limit x tends to infinity, sin x by x plus cos x. So see here, sin x is a bounded function as modulus of sin x less than or equal to 1, and no matter cos x is positive or negative, x plus cos x gonna always be tend to infinity as x tends to infinity, right? Because this x is itself going to infinity, and what matter cos x be positive or negative, cos x will be always less than or equal to 1 modulus of cos x. So x plus cos x gonna tend to infinity no matter what the sign of cos x is. The sign of cos x is irrelevant. So since x tends to infinity, this x plus cos x tends to infinity, and sin x is a bounded function. So limit x tends to infinity, sin x by x plus cos x, this will be 0. Okay? Are you with me? So this limit x tends to infinity, sin x by x plus cos x, that will be 0. Now So limit x tends to infinity, square root of x by square root of x plus 3. Please give a try to this problem. Are you with me? Please respond.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, so what will be the answer of this problem? Limit x tends to plus infinity, square root of x by square root of x plus 3. Yes, once again please respond.
You can try conjugating.
No need for taking by multiplication by conjugate. Just okay. Can I give one hint to you?
The answer is 1, correct?
Yes, you are correct. The answer is 1.
Root x outside from the denominator, cancel it with the numerator. 3 by root x will be 3 by infinity will be 0. 1 by 1, that is 1.
Okay, very nice, very nice. So square root of, so I also request please, like now you have also responded, so now I request all of you to please respond with me, because otherwise just I will read the slides and that will not benefit me. Okay, and these 2-hour sessions we will both together we will try to learn something new. Okay, so I am rightly pursuing a PhD at IIT Ropar, and I am also a TA here also, that BTech first year people, I will also teach them the same course. So I will create a balance between the two courses. So please be with me. I will share some of the questions answer of IIT Ropar also with you in the matter hub. So please respond with me and try to attend these live sessions. Okay, even one of you can get some valued inputs to me or then it will be very beneficial for both of us. So what we will do, so square root of x, what we will do, we will just divide by square root of x, because what is the highest power of x here? In the numerator part it is half, and the denominator part again it is half, because 3 means 3 into x to the power 0, because x to the power 0 is 1. So what is the highest power? The highest power is square root of x. You divide by square root of x and then just take the inverse, that x tends to plus infinity, that 1 by square root of x tends to 0, and then the answer will be, what will be the answer? The answer will be 1 by 1 plus 0, and so that will be 1. So here it is, limit x tends to infinity, square root of x by square root of x plus 3, just the same, just 1 by square root of x tends to 0 plus, and it will be just answer will be 1. Okay, some people tried to join and just left. Okay. Okay, now question number D. Limit x tends to plus infinity, 1 plus 2 by x to the power x. How you will solve this problem? Anything in your mind? Limit x tends to infinity, 1 plus 2x by x. Okay, I will discuss the solution. See limit x tends to infinity, 1 plus 2 by x to the power x. So what I am doing, I am dividing the numerator as well as the denominator of 2 by x by 2. So we are getting 1 plus 1 by x by 2, and in the power part we are adjusting similarly. So it is x by 2 into 2, right? X by 2 into 2, so this 2 will cancel out and it will give you x. Now x tends to infinity, so x by 2 also tends to infinity. So now there is a limit theorem, that limit y tends to infinity, 1 plus 1 by y to the power y is actually e, the irrational number e. So what will be the inner the answer within the bracket? The expression of this, the limiting expression of this function will be e, and there is 1 square, so the answer will be e square. Okay, now I will discuss question number E. So limit this the answer of this question we all know, right? Limit x tends to 0 sin x by x. What will be the answer? Limit x tends to 0 sin x by x. Huh? Yes. So how, okay, can you prove it? Can you prove that how the answer 1 is coming?
I think we need to use the intermediary theorem, the wrong theorem, I think.
Just be louder, I couldn't hear you properly. You said something about geometry, right? Okay, I will try to prove it by like some other method, but there is also one back calculation type of thing that the simplest one is to use L'Hopital's rules, like the sin x by x, it is in the indeterminate form, so you can just use the L'Hopital rule, but in our solution we will not do L'Hopital's rule, we will use something better method. So what we will do now, prove that limit x tends to 0 sin x by x equal to 1. Now if 0 less than x less than pi by 2, so you are going from the right hand side of 0, so in this region sin x is less than x and x is less than tan x, so therefore you divide by sin x, so what you get, the inequality to be 1 less than x by sin x less than 1 by cos x in 0 less than x less than pi by 2. Now as x tends to 0 plus 1 by cos x goes to 1, so we have limit x tends to 0 plus x by sin x to be 1. So just use sandwich theorem. So by sandwich theorem you get this x by sin x to be 1, because the left hand limit also goes to 1 as x tends to 0, the right hand side also goes to 1. So by just using sandwich theorem we are proving this sort of this inequality. And similarly in the minus pi by 2 to 0 range, the inequality moves in the shifts. So here sin x less than tan x, so here just tan x less than sin x. Similarly just divide by sin x, and if you divide by sin x you get 1 by cos x less than x by sin x less than 1 in 0, so 0 greater than x greater than minus pi by 2. So as you go from the left hand side of 0 you get still 1 by cos x equal to be 1. So once again application of sandwich theorem will give sin x by x to be equals to 1. Now for the existence of limit, the left hand limit and the right hand limit should be same, and the answer will be the actual value of the limit. So it will follow that limit x tends to 0 sin x by x equal to 1. Okay. So the next problem. So limit x tends to infinity sin x by x. Anyone? What will be the answer? Limit x tends to infinity sin x by x. Anyone? Limit x tends to infinity sin x by x. Feel free, whatever comes into your mind, just say. Anybody? Okay, just I am giving you some hints that okay, so limit x tends to infinity sin x by x. Sin x is a bounded function, so as x approaches to infinity, this sin x function is a bounded function, and it is always bounded by 1. So this x tends to infinity, so 1 by x gonna converts to 10 to 0. So this limit x tends to infinity sin x by x, the answer will be 0 itself. Okay, so after some limit, let's move to continuity. Check the continuity of the function at the point x equal to 2, where fx equal to x square minus 4 by x minus 2, where x not equals to 2, and 10 when x equal to 2. So can you check the continuity of this function and at the point x equal to 2? Is the function continuous?
We need to check at the right and the left of the point.
Yes, please repeat again.
I said I need to check at the left and the right of the point to check if they have the same value.
Okay, so see, limit. Okay, so first of all, what we will do for continuity purpose, the limit value at fx, that limit x tends to 2 fx, that value should be equal to f of 2. Okay, so what we will do, we will first check the limiting value. So let fx equal to x square minus 4 divided by x minus 2, x not equals to 2, and 10 when x equals to 2. So limit x tends to 2, x square minus 4 divided by x minus 2. This is equal to limit x tends to 2, and x square minus 4 is just x square minus 2 square. So x square minus 2 square is x plus 2 into x minus 2 divided by x minus 2. So x minus 2 cancels one another. So that gives you x plus 2. And for x plus 2, just put x equal to 2. So you will get it to 4. Now f is not continuous at 2. Okay. So f is not continuous at 2. Why? Because the value of that, the limiting value is 4. But the value prescribed at x equal to 2 is 10. So this type of discontinuity we call it removable discontinuity. Why removable discontinuity? Because by suitably defining the function, you can remove the discontinuity. How you will remove the discontinuity? Just instead of 10, define the function to be fx equal to 4 at x equal to 2. Then the function will become continuous, right? But right now the function is not continuous. Right now it has a removable discontinuity at the point x equal to 2. Now the next question. Check the continuity of the function at the point x equals to 0, where fx equal to 1 by x into sin 1 by x, where x not equals to 0, and 0 when x equals to 0. Is the function continuous? 1 by x sin 1 by x. Okay. See, let fx equal to 1 by x sin 1 by x, x not equals to 0, and 0 when x equals to 0. Here limit x tends to 0, fx does not exist. Why does not exist? Because f is unbounded in open interval 0 delta for any delta greater than 0. So what will be the limit supremum? The limit supremum will be infinity. The right hand limit from limit x tends to 0 plus, if you go from the right hand side to 0, you will get it to be infinity. And if you go from the negative side, what you will get? You will get it to be, because sin 1 by x fluctuates between minus 1 to 1. So the limit supremum of fx is actually infinity, and the limit infimum of fx is equal to minus infinity. So f has strong discontinuity at 0, and 0 is called a point of infinite oscillatory discontinuity. Okay, because 0 at the point of 0, the function oscillates infinitely. So this type of 1 by x sin 1 by x, because why this plus infinity minus infinity sort of thing is coming? because sine 1 by x is fluctuates between minus 1 and 1, and as you go from x x towards as you take x 0, okay, so what the thing will happen? The thing will happen that this sine 1 by x term will fluctuate between positive and negative thing. So that's why the f is discontinuous at 0, and this 0 is a point of infinite oscillatory discontinuity. Okay, so next question number 4. Let f R2R be defined as fx equal to x square sine 1 by x square, x not equals to 0, and it is 0 at x equals to 0. So you need to show that f is differentiable on R, but f prime is not continuous on R. How you will show that f is differentiable on R? Does this function have any problem for x not equals to be 0? The answer is no. The function has no problem for x not equals to 0. Only the problematic part is x equals to 0. So you need to check the derivative on the x equals to 0. Am I clear to you? Just for 1 minute, just read the question. Let f R2R be defined as fx equal to x square sine 1 by x square, x not equals to 0, and it is 0 when x equals to 0. So you need to show me that f is differentiable on R, but f prime is not continuous on R. Okay, I will discuss. See, let f R2R be defined by fx as fx equal to x square sine 1 by x square, x not equals to 0, and 0 for x equals to 0. So for x not equals to 0, the df dx equal to twice x sine 1 by x square minus 2 by x cos 1 by x square. Now you need to prove limit the derivative at the point 0. So for that purpose we just use the definition of derivative. So limit x tends to 0, fx minus f0 by x minus 0. So what it will give? X square sine 1 by x square by x. So limit x tends to 0, x sine 1 by x square, that is equals to 0. So therefore f prime 0 equal to 0. Hence f is differentiable on R, and the derived function f prime is defined by f prime x equal to twice x sine 1 by x square minus twice by x cos 1 by x square, x not equals to 0, and 0 for x equals to 0. Now limit x tends to 0 f prime x. So as x approaches to 0, where does f prime x converge? Is does not exist. Why? Because of this 2 by x term, right? Because cos 1 by x square is actually a bounded function, but what happens? This 1 by x term, as x approaches to 0, this 1 by x terms approaches to infinity. So this function is also has infinite oscillatory discontinuity at x equals to 0. So that's why we prove that f prime is not continuous at 0. Okay, this f prime is not continuous at 0. So what we got for this problem, that if R2R be defined by this, we observe that f is differentiable on R, but still f prime is not continuous on R. That means f prime exists but is not continuous. Do you have any problem in this question? Anyone has any doubt?
Can you repeat the question? I can't understand here.
Yes, please, once again.
Can you repeat the solution? I can't understand.
Okay, thank you. I will once again repeat, no problem. See, what is the problem? The problem is like that you have to cross check that f is differentiable on R, but f prime is not continuous on R. So how to prove it? So if R to R is defined by this fx, now first we will prove that the derivative exists for x not equal to 0. So if x not equals to 0, then the derivative directly you can put by just df dx, right? Because for x not equals to 0 there is no problem, right? So just you determine df dx. Now for x equals to 0 you need to calculate the derivative. So what is the derivative? Limit x tends to 0, increment in the f function fx minus f0 divided by increment in the point x minus 0. It is just the formulae of determining derivative. So limit x tends to 0, it will just fx is x square sine 1 by x square, and x is x, and f of 0 is 0 just. So x will cancel 1x, so you will get limit x tends to 0 x sine 1 by x square. So therefore f prime 0 is equal to 0, because we have determined here that this is just nothing but the f prime 0. So f is differentiable on R, because for any x not equals to 0 we have proved df dx exists. Now for x equals to 0 we also shown that df dx at x equals to 0 exists. So what is how that f prime is defined? F prime is defined to be 2x sine 1 by x square minus twice by x cos 1 by x square, x not equals to 0, and it is equals to 0 when x equals to 0. So limit f prime x does not exist, since now see, if x approaches to 0, where does this f prime x approaches? This f prime x does not exist because of this 2 by x term. For continuity of this f prime x, this limiting value, limit x tends to 0 f prime x, this should be equal to f prime 0. But what is happening here? This f prime x, it does not exist at the point x equals to 0. That means that f prime is not continuous at 0. Am I clear? Don't think f prime as, just think f prime as another function. You can define it f prime to be g. Okay. Okay. Next problem. Construct a function f from a to b to r such that f is continuous on ab but fails to be differentiable at exactly 2 points. Can you give me an example of such a function which is continuous on the closed interval ab but fails to be differentiable at exactly 2 points?
We check the solution for the question 6. Question 6, there are some difficulty to find the solution for this one. Question 6.
Question 6.
Yes, sir.
Question 6 till now I did not discuss. I am currently discussing question number 5. Okay. So can you give me the one function that is can you construct a function from a to b to r such that f is continuous on ab but fails to be differentiable at exactly 2 points? Anyone?
For example, and the linear function, for example. If we define a function between n and 0 that is equal to minus x, then another one that is, for example, the square root of x, we have this property at 1 point. At point, I don't know.
Okay, I will give one example, no problem. See, so this is the function. Let f defined from minus 5 to 5 to r, and this is defined as fx equal to modulus of x plus x minus modulus of x minus y for all x belongs to minus 5 to 5. Now this is not differentiable at the function is not differentiable at x equals to 0 as well as x equal to 1. Now you just try to prove it. Okay, you will just get right hand derivative and left hand derivative to be unequal, and that is how you can prove it. So just this is an example of a function which is continuous on the closed interval -5 to 5 but fails to be derivable at exactly 2 points, x equals to 0 and x equals to 1. It is just a linear combination of mod x and mod of x minus 1. Okay. Now question number 6. Show that the set of conditions in Rolle's theorem is a set of sufficient conditions in the sense that f prime x may be 0 at some point xi in AB even if the conditions of the theorem do not hold together. So what does it mean? It means that the conditions which we learned in the Rolle's theorem, can anybody please tell me that what is Rolle's theorem? So what is actually Rolle's theorem? So Rolle's theorem says that if a function is continuous and a closed interval AB and differentiable on the open interval AB, then you gonna have and fa equal to fp, then you gonna have a point psi in between the open interval AB such that f prime psi vanishes. So what does here we will show a counter example that the conditions of Rolle's theorem are not hold together, but still we gonna have a point psi such that f prime psi vanishes. So it is a very interesting problem. Okay. So the set of conditions in Rolle's theorem is a set of sufficient conditions in the sense that f prime x may be 0 at some point psi in AB even if the conditions of the theorem do not hold together. To establish this, let us consider the function f defined on -1 to 2. So our closed interval in -1 to 2 and the function is fx equal to mod x plus mod of x minus 1. So just break the fx part. If you break the fx from this interval -1 to 0, you gonna have to be 1 minus 2x because in -1 to 0 this modulus of x is also negative, this x minus 1 is also negative. So you wanna have minus x plus minus of x minus 1. So minus x plus 1 minus x, so 1 minus 2x. In 0 to 1, modulus x is positive but x minus 1 is negative. So x plus 1 minus x. So x will cancel one another, so you will get 1. And from 1 to 2, then this modulus x plus x minus 1 is 2x minus 1. So see, f is continuous in -1 to 2, but f is not differentiable at 0 and 1. But f of -1 and f of 2, this is equal to 3. Okay, so it is satisfying two conditions, the continuity part and the equality of at the endpoints. Still the differentiability part it does not satisfy, but still you wanna have. So therefore f does not satisfy the second condition of Rolle's theorem, which is the differentiability on the open interval, because there is the point 0 and 1 where the function fails to be differentiable. But you see, take any 2x minus 1 from x belongs to 0 to 1, this open interval, any x from 0 to 1, this open interval 0 to 1. So what you will get? You will get the derivative to be 0, right? So although f does not satisfy all the conditions of Rolle's theorem together on -1 to 2 and f prime x equals to 0 at some point, but still you are getting for some points the derivative is vanishing. Is it clear? Is the problem clear? I will upload the solutions, not to worry about it, okay? Just stay with me. Okay. Next question number 7. If Px is a polynomial of degree greater than 1 and k belongs to R, prove that between any two real roots of Px equals to 0, there is a real root of P prime x plus k Px equals to 0. So here P prime x means dp dx. So just read carefully first what we try to say in this problem. So if Px is a polynomial of degree greater than 1 and K belongs to R, we need to prove that between any two real roots of Px equals to 0, there is a real root of dp dx plus kpx equals to 0. So how to prove it? Let fx equal to e की power kx into px and x belongs to R, then df dx equal to e की power kx. Just we will use product rule of derivative, okay? What we will use? We will just use product rule of derivative. Okay.
Why do you choose to use an exponential function? Why using an exponential function? I don't understand why.
Okay. Just for the proof, see, Px is a polynomial of degree greater than 1 and K belongs to R. So we need to prove that between any two real roots of Px equals to 0, there is a real root of P prime x plus Kpx. So do you have any idea of differential equation?
Yes.
So you have idea of differential equation, right? So what is the solution of this? If you just solve it as forget about p to be p, if p is any function, okay, p is any function and f is any function and you want to have a prime x plus k fx equals to 0. So what will be the solution of that fx? The fx will be e की power kx, right?
Okay.
So that's why we have actually did some back calculation there, because we need to ultimately come to this part, this part, okay? And e की power kx is actually a positive function, it cannot be 0. E की power kx never vanishes, it just gradually increases. So that is why we have considered the product rule, e की power kx into px, because when you will use the product rule, in between you will have this p prime x plus kpx when you take the derivative. Got my point? See here, we have considered fx to be e की power kx into px. This fx is any function. So what is this f prime x? F prime x is e की power kx kpx plus p prime x. So in between this bracket we got what we have to prove. So now you consider that alpha and beta be any two real roots of px, the polynomial, and you say that since they are real roots, you can arrange them as alpha less than beta, right? So we, by the laws of generality, we assume that alpha is the smaller one and beta is the bigger one. So p alpha equal to 0, p beta equal to 0, and f alpha is e की power k alpha into p alpha equal to 0. ठीक है, because p alpha is 0 and e की power k alpha you are multiplying some positive quantity with 0, so that gonna give you 0. And f beta is once again e की power k beta into p beta equals to 0. Now f is continuous on alpha beta, so f is continuous, e की power kx into px, it will not create any problem. With polynomial you are multiplying an exponential function, both of them are continuous, you wanna have the product to be continuous. So f prime x exists for all x belongs to the open interval alpha beta, right? Because it is a very smooth function. Now we have proved that f alpha equal to 0, f beta equals to 0. So ultimately f alpha equal to f beta. So it satisfies all the conditions of Rolle's theorem, right? So from Rolle's theorem what we gonna get? We gonna get some gamma in the open interval alpha beta such that f prime gamma equals to 0. Now what is f prime gamma? F prime gamma from here, it is e की power k gamma into kp gamma plus p prime gamma equal to 0. Now e की power k gamma, that gonna never vanish. So what we will get? We will get k into p gamma plus p prime gamma equals to 0. So what it will give that gamma is a root of kpx plus p prime x equals to 0. where alpha is less than gamma less than beta. Is it clear now?
Yes, yes, it's okay.
Okay. Now, okay, so let f from a to b tending towards r be continuous on ab, and f double prime x exists for all x belongs to open interval ab. Let a less than c less than b. You need to prove that there exists a point xi in open interval ab such that fc can be written as b minus c by b minus a into fa by c minus a by c minus b into fb plus half into c minus a into c minus b into f double prime xi. It is actually bit a tedious problem, but since for the sake of theoretical convenience I have put this problem here. So is the question clear what we need to do? And whenever you get this sort of this continuity or like differentiability, you wanna always get some, and there exists some point psi. Then what is our aim? Our aim is to go towards Rolle's theorem, to use the Rolle's theorem, right? So without a delay, let's proceed. So let a function phi, define a function phi from a to b to r, and that defined as phi x equal to fx minus x minus b into x minus c by a minus b into a minus c fa minus x minus c into x minus a by b minus c into b minus a into fb into x minus a into x minus b by c minus a minus c minus b into fc for all x belongs to ab. Now phi is continuous because it is just combination of some polynomial. F is continuous and you have just added some polynomials, so phi is continuous. And also since f double prime x exists for all x belongs to open interval ab, so f prime is continuous on ab, therefore phi double prime x exists for all x belongs to open interval ab, so phi prime is continuous on ab, and hence phi is differentiable on ab because phi prime is continuous. And phi a, we have see how we have constructed this phi. We have constructed the phi in such a way that the function phi a, phi b, phi c, they vanishes. Okay, so phi a, phi b, phi c vanishes. Now we applying Rolle's theorem to the function phi on AC and CB. We have some phi prime xi1 belongs to 0 for some xi1 in open interval AC, and some xi2 belonging to CB such that phi prime xi2 goes to 0. Now applying Rolle's theorem to the function phi prime on this xi1 xi2. Okay, so what you gonna have? You gonna have, because this phi prime function satisfies all the conditions of Rolle's theorem. Now we have phi double prime xi that is equals to 0 for some xi belonging to xi1 xi2. Now phi double prime xi equals to 0 for some xi belongs to ab, that implies phi prime xi. But what is phi? Phi x. Phi x is just this, so you just put phi prime xi equal to a, take derivative with respect to twice, so you gonna have just phi double prime xi equal to f double prime xi minus 2fa by a minus b into a minus c minus 2fb by b minus c into b minus a minus 2fc into c minus a by c minus b. Now you use just now this phi prime double xi equal to 0, so this entire right hand side is equals to 0. Now from there on you just put just do some algebraic calculation. You wanna have fc to be b minus c by b minus a into fa plus c minus a by b minus a into fb plus half into c minus a c minus b into f double prime xi a less than b. So here we have just used Rolle's theorem twice and on the phi prime part itself. Okay. Now question number 9. You need to use mean value theorem to prove that 0 less than 1 by x less than logarithm of e to the power x minus 1 by x less than 1 for x greater than 0. my question clear to you? Okay. Okay. So let fx equal to square root of 1 plus x. Then what is f prime x? F prime x is 1 by 2 square root of 1 by x. F double prime x is minus 1 by 4 1 plus x to the power 3 by 2, and f triple prime x is 3 by 8 into 1 plus x to the power 5 by 2. Now using Taylor's theorem with Lagrange's form of multiplier, for any x greater than 0, you will have square root of 1 plus x to be fx equals to s0 plus x f prime 0 plus x square by factorial to f double prime 0 plus x cube by 3 factorial f triple prime 0, or square root of 1 plus x is 1 plus x by 2 minus x square by 8 plus x cube by 16 1 plus c to the power 5 by 2. Now for x greater than 0, what we will get? This is a positive term, so square root of 1 by x is greater than 1 plus x by 2 minus x square by 8, since x greater than 0 and this term is greater than 0 because c belongs to 0 to x. Now we use Taylor's theorem with Lagrange's form of remainder after two terms for any x greater than 0. So fx equal to f0 plus x f prime 0 plus x square by factorial to f double prime d. So square root of 1 by x is 1 plus x by 2 minus x square by 8 into 1 plus d to the power 3 by 2. So you are subtracting some positive terms from 1 plus x by 2. So obviously this term is less than 1 plus x by 2 because this x square by 8 into 1 plus d to the power 3 by 2 is actually greater than 0. So what we will get finally? 1 plus x minus x square by 8. This is less than 1 square root of 1 plus x, and this is less than or equal to 1 plus x by 2 if x greater than 0, which we need to prove. Is it clear? We just used Taylor's theorem by Lagrange's form of remainder twice. After three terms, to show that square root of 1 plus x greater than something, we used three terms, and to show that it is less than something, we have used Lagrange's form of multiplier up to two terms. So we have proved for question 10. We have proved for question 10. Now I request you to please solve it for question number 9. Okay.
One answer in the assignment, we will have such a question. That's it. In the assignment, for the assignment or late assignment.
Please repeat once again.
For the assignment,
the assignment problems.
yes,
You want to discuss me the assignment which were given in the NPTEL platform? No, these are some extra sessions.
Okay.
These are some extra sessions.
thanks.
No problem. Okay, I will also discuss some of the 10 probably some 9 or 10 MCQs later on, okay, which will be helpful for you to solve the assignments. But actually since you have some deadline to upload the assignments, so I cannot right now discuss the assignments. If you have any problem regarding the assignments, you can ask me directly during our class after 1 or 2 weeks, because you have some deadline, right, to upload the assignments.
Yes.
Okay, so I will solve some extra problems so that you can get some confidence to solve these assignments. These are bit theoretical questions, I agree, but I also have some MCQs. Please stay with me, we will solve some MCQs also. Okay, yes, ask me question. Any someone raised a hand? Sarvesh, your voice is not clear. Please write in the chat box what you are trying to ask. I do not know actually. Is the questions bit tough or is it bit easy? The questions which I am, is it tough or is it is like okay? Service, please respond in the chat box. I couldn't hear you properly. Okay, so I have also some MCQs. Okay, now let's move to question 11. This question 11 is not that much theoretical. I hope that you will enjoy this problem. So let C belongs to R and the real function f be such that f double prime is continuous on some neighborhood of C. Now you need to prove that limit h tends to 0, f of C plus h minus twice fc plus f of C minus h by h square is equal to f double prime c. It is not a theoretical question. I hope that you are able to solve this problem. Please give a try on this problem, those who are joining with me. I am giving you one hint, just use Taylor's theorem. You use Taylor's theorem up to 2 terms. F of C plus h is fc plus h of fc plus h square by 2 a prime c, and then there will be higher order terms. So okay, I will discuss just a bit. Do I have the solutions? Okay, yes. So let f double prime be continuous on c minus delta c plus delta for some delta greater than 0. So just use Taylor's theorem with Lagrange's form of remainder after two terms for any h satisfying 0 less than h less than delta. You wanna have f of c plus h to be fc plus h f prime c plus h square by factorial to f double prime c plus theta h. And what will be f of c minus h? F of c minus h will be fc minus h of f prime c plus h square by factorial to f double prime c minus theta prime h by 0 less than theta less than 1, 0 less than theta prime less than 1. So just add them up. F of c plus h plus f of c minus h minus 2fc, you will get h square by factorial 2 common f double prime c plus theta h plus f double prime c minus theta prime h. Divide by h square. So f of c plus h plus f of c minus h minus twice fc by h square equal to half f double prime c plus theta h plus f double prime c minus theta prime h. Since f prime double prime h is continuous at c, so f double prime is continuous at c, so you can take limit inside the function. So this theta h vanishes as h tends to 0. So this f double prime c plus theta h, this is equal to f double prime c, and limit h tends to 0, f double prime c minus theta prime h is also f double prime c. So hence limit h tends to 0, f of c plus h plus f of c minus h minus 2fc by h square, this is equals to f double prime c. So is this question clear? Okay. Now try to solve these problems. First problem is you need to evaluate the limits. Limit x tends to 0, e की power x minus e की power minus x minus 2 logarithm of 1 plus x by x sin x. Try to determine this problem quickly. Try to solve it. Are you with me? Are you able to solve it? Just use L'Hopital's rule. I am giving one hint because we wanna have 0 by 0 sort of form. Your voice just cracked. Please tell me once again. Okay, once again, please write in the chat box. The limit x tends to 0, e की power x minus e की power minus x minus 2 log 1 plus x by x sin x. This problem. Okay. See, limit x tends to 0, e की power x minus e की power minus x minus 2 logarithm of 1 plus x by x sin x. Here the limit takes the indeterminate form 0 by 0. So we have to try L'Hopital's rule successively. The evaluation of the limit can be exhibited as follows. Limit x tends to 0, e की power x minus e की power minus x by 2 minus 2 logarithm of 1 plus x by x sin x is 0 by 0. So use L'Hopital rule, take derivative of this term. So first derivative of e की power x is e की power x, then the derivative of e की power minus x is plus e की power minus x, because that minus minus will make it plus, and minus 2 logarithm of 1 plus x. So derivative of 2 logarithm of 1 plus x by is equal to 2 by 1 by x, and the derivative of x sin x is x cos x plus sin x. So derivative of x sin x is x cos x plus sin x. So once again you observe that this is once again taking the indeterminate form of 0 by 0. Why? Because if you put 0 in the denominator, you will get 0 into cos 0 1, that means 0 plus sin 0 0, so 0, and in the numerator e की power 0 equal to 1 plus e की power minus 0 is equal to 1 second 1 minus 2 by 1 is equal to minus 2. So this is 1 plus 1 minus 2, this is equals to 0. So x cos x, so 0 by 0 form, you once again use L'Hopital's rule. So if you once again use L'Hopital's rule, derivative of the upper numerator, the derivative of the numerator is e की power x, derivative e की power x, e की power minus x, derivative e की power minus x, and this 2 by 1 plus x, the derivative will be plus 2 by 1 plus x square. Now take derivative of x cos x plus sin x. So x cos x, the derivative will be minus x sin x, plus x cos x, you take derivative of x, you gonna have only cos x. So cos x plus sin x, the derivative is cos x, so cos x plus cos x will be 2 cos x. Now it is just observe that it is not in the 0 by 0 form, because here you gonna have in the numerator part e की power 0 minus e की power 0 0, and then 2 by 1 plus 0 whole square, that means 2, and here you gonna have 2, because x sin x will vanish at the point 0, but 2 cos x will remain, 2 into 1 2. So what will be the answer? 1 minus 1 plus 2 by 0 plus 2, so that means 2 by 2, this is equals to 1. Is the question clear? We have used L'Hopital's rules twice. That is the main thing we did. Now you try to solve the problem B. Limit x tends to 0 plus 1 by x minus 1 by sin x. Please give me answer. I need answers. You just use L'Hopital's rule and give me the answers. I am giving you 2 to 3 minutes. Okay? Just solve it. I am giving you 2 to 3 minutes. Are you with me? Solution हुआ इसका? Did you solve the question? 12b, limit x tends to 0 plus 1 by x minus 1 by sin x. Okay. So limit x tends to 0 plus 1 by x minus 1 by sin x. So what we will do? We will just do, we have limit x tends to 0 plus 1 by x minus 1 by sin x. Ahmed, just please mute your okay, so we have limit x tends to 0 plus 1 by x minus 1 by sin x. So what we will do, we will just like numerator and denominator, we will just use the subtraction of fraction. So 1 by x minus 1 by sin x, that will give sin x minus x by x sin x. So sin x minus x by x sin x, it is actually the indeterminate form of 0 by 0 type. So what we will do, we will just use L'Hopital's rule here also. So sin x minus x, if you use L'Hopital's rule, you wanna have cos x minus 1, you take L'Hopital rule in the denominator, you wanna have once again x sin x. Now x cos x plus sin x, this is minus sin x by minus x sin x plus 2 cos x, because here once again you are getting 0 by 0. So minus sin x, now it is not 0 by 0, because in the numerator you are getting 0 and in the denominator you are getting 0 plus 2. So the denominator is 2 and the numerator is 0, so the answer is 0. Yes, so the answer is 0. Is the question clear? Okay, now limit x tends to 0 plus sin x by x की power 1 by x. Limit x tends to 0 plus sin x by x to the power 1 by x. How we will solve this problem? Okay, evaluate limit x tends to 0 sin x by x की power 1 by x. Let fx equal to sin x by x, x not equals to 0 and gx equal to 1 by x. X not equals to 0. Now limit x tends to 0 plus sin x by x equals to 1 and limit x tends to 0 plus 1 by x is equals to infinity. So fx to the power gx takes the indeterminate form 1 की power infinity. Okay. Now limit x tends to 0 plus take logarithm of sin x by x to the power 1 by x. Whenever you will have this sort of 1 by x sort of thing, always try in the power, you always try to use logarithm. Okay, so log sin x by x, so this is 0 by 0 form. You just use L'Hopital's rule. If you use L'Hopital's rule, you wanna have 1 by sin x by x, so x by sin x. So in the now sin x by x you need to take derivative. So if you derivative sin x by x, it gonna give you x cos x minus sin x by x square. Be very careful while doing this sort of calculations. Okay, so what you wanna have, you gonna have x and x gonna cancel one another. So in the numerator you gonna have x cos x minus sin x, and in the denominator once again x sin x. So you are getting once again 0 by 0 form. So limit x tends to 0 plus minus x sin x plus cos x minus x cos x, because we are once again using L'Hopital's rule. So in the numerator we gonna have, for this x cos x part we gonna have minus x sin x, and then this x we gonna have cos x only, and for sin x we gonna have cos x, and this cos x cancel one another. So in the numerator we gonna have minus, so see, minus x sin x by sin x plus x cos x. So we gonna have once again 0 by 0 sort of thing. So once again indeterminate form of 0 by 0 type, we use L'Hopital rule once again. So So minus x sin x, the derivative will be minus x cos x minus sin x, and in the denominator you use once again L'Hopital's rule, take the derivative, you are gonna have sin x plus x cos x. So if you take derivative, you are gonna have minus x sin x plus 2 cos x. So now in the numerator part you are having 0, but in the denominator part you are having 2. So it is not applying determinant form. You can put x equal to 0 directly and you will have 0. So now be careful, because it is in the log sense, log of sin x by x into 1 by a. So limit x tends to 0 plus sin x by x is 1 by x equal to e to the power 0 equal to 1. So what we have got that term to be e to the power 0 equal to 1. And similarly for x tends to 0 minus also, if x tends to 0 minus, then still you gonna have fx equals to 1 and this to be minus infinity, and just limit x tends to 0 minus fx to the power gx takes the indeterminate form of 1 to the power minus infinity. And proceeding similarly, you can have limit x tends to 0 minus sin x by x equal to 1 by x to be equal to 1. Since the left hand limit and right hand limit are equal to 1, they are equal. So consequently you get limit x tends to 0 sin x by x to the power 1 by x to be equals to 1. Next we will move to this slide. So you need to find the value of a such that it limit x tends to 0, a sin x minus sin 2x by tan cube x, this is equal to beta, where beta is some finite value. So you need to determine a in such a manner that this limit x tends to 0, a sin x minus sin 2x by tan cube x, this is equal to beta, and this beta is actually some finite value. So how we will solve? Without a delay, let's proceed further. See, given limit x tends to 0, a sin x minus sin 2x by tan cube x equal to beta. Now this is nothing but once again the 0 by 0 form, indeterminate form. You use L'Hopital's rule. So limit x tends to 0, this is a cosine x, sin x, you take derivative, you gonna have a cosine x, minus sin 2x, the derivative you gonna have 2 into cos 2x, and this tan cube x, this derivative is 3 tan square x sec square x. And as 3 tan square x sec square x once again approaches to 0 as x tends to 0, you use L'Hopital's rule once again, you should have the numerator also to be 0 at x tends to 0. So this a cos x minus 2 cos 2x should also tend to 0 as x tends to 0, otherwise you cannot apply L'Hopital's rule. And for beta to be finite, you must have the numerator to be 0. So as a cos x minus 2 cos 2x tends to 0, x tends to 0, you want to have a equal to 2. Is this question clear? Okay. Now, is this question clear? Are you with me?
Yes.
Okay. So we need to find a and b such that limit x tends to 0, a e to the power x plus b e to the power minus x plus 2 sin x by sin x by x plus x cos x equal to 2. So how to prove? A e to the power x plus b e to the power minus x plus 2 sin x by sin x plus x cos x equal to 2. So you need to find a and b. So using similar technique, can you prove this? Can you determine a and b? Please give a try. If you want, you can give a try. Just you need to use the conditions for L'Hopital rule to be applied. You just use the conditions of L'Hopital's rule. Sarvesh, will you give a try if you are with me? Okay, so just give a try to this problem. Yes. So I am with you. Please give a try to this problem. no need to solve the equation. You just need to determine okay, I will discuss. Wait. So see, given limit x tends to 0, a e की power x plus b e की power minus x plus twice sin x divided by sin x plus x cos x equal to 2. So now see, sin x plus x cos x goes to 0 at x tends to 0. Now to use L'Hopital's rule, we must have the numerator also to approach 0 as x tends to 0. So a plus b equals to, so what does this condition gives? This conditions gives a plus b to be equals to 0. So what does it give? It gives a equal to minus b. So you just put a equal to minus b above. So what you will get? Limit x tends to 0, a e की power x minus a e की power minus x plus 2 sin x by sin x plus x cos x, this 0 by 0 form. So once again you are getting 0 by 0 form because you have used the condition. Now you use once again L'Hopital's rule. So if you use once again L'Hopital's rule, you use a e की power x plus a e की power minus x plus 2 cos x by 2 cos x minus x sin x. Now in the denominator you are not having indeterminate form of a 0 type. In the denominator you are not having 0. So you are having 2 minus 0. Just put x equal to 0 then. So what you are getting in the numerator, you are getting 2a plus 2 and the denominator 2. So if you divide 2 by 2a plus 2, divide it by 2, you are going to have a plus 1. Now if you put a plus 1 equal to 2, so you are going to have a equal to 1 because you in the answer question it is given that the value of the limit is equal to 2. So a plus 1 equal to 2. So what does it give? It gives a equal to 1. Is the question clear? Hello? Are you with me? Is the question clear? Okay. So there exists x belongs to 0 to 2 such that f prime x equals to 0 where fx equal to modulus of x minus 1. The above statement is false. Why false? So don't follow this solution. I am just giving some alternative proof. This x minus modulus of x minus 1, if you take, it is not derivable at the point 1. Okay. So in the other otherwise if x greater than 1, this x minus 1 is equal to x minus 1 and if x less than 1 it is 1 minus x. So either the derivative is 1 or minus 1. So there is does not exist any x such that you gonna have this f prime x equals to 0. So there does not exist any x for which you gonna have for fx equal to modulus of x minus 1 you have this to be satisfying that f prime x to be 0. Now if the function fx equal to x to the power 4 minus 2x square satisfies all the conditions of Rolle's theorem in the interval minus 2 comma 2, then the values of c in that interval such that f prime c equals to 0 are. Are you with me? So what is fx? Fx equal to x to the power 4 minus 2x square. So df dx equal to 4x cube minus 4x. So for determination of the values c such that f prime c equal to 0, you just need to put 4c cube minus 4c to be equals to 0. So that gonna give you c square minus 1 into c to be equals to 0. So c equal to plus minus 1 and 0. Okay. So option A, B and D are right. 0, 1 and minus 1. Are you with me? Now try this problem. Suppose fx is continuous on 1 comma 2 and differentiable in open interval 1 comma 2 such that f2 equal to minus 5 and modulus of fx less than or equal to 2, then the largest possible value of f1 is. Is my question clear to you? Give a try. Suppose fx is continuous on 1 comma 2 and differentiable in open interval 1 comma 2 such that f of 2 is equal to minus 5 and modulus of f prime x is less than or equal to 2. You just determine the largest possible value of f1. Okay. So by Lagrange's mean value theorem, what we will get? f2 minus f1 by 2 minus 1, that is just fb minus fa by d minus a, that is equal to f prime c for some c belongs to 1 comma 2. Now that is modulus of f2 minus f1 by 2 minus 1 is 1. So modulus of this quantity is equal to modulus of f prime c, that is less than or equal to 2, because that is all actually given, the modulus of f prime x less than or equal to 2. Now you just use, so divided by 1, that means nothing, so the same quantity you will get. So f2 minus f1 divided by 1, this is less than or equal to 2. You just use minus 2, modulus of f2 minus f1 less than or equal to 2, minus 2 less than or equal to minus 5. So what is the value of f2? The value of f2 is equal to minus 5, minus f1 less than or equal to 2. So now what you will do? You will just take this minus 5 in the left side as well as the right side. So that is minus 2 plus 5 is 3, less than or equal to minus f1 less than or equal to 7, minus 5 plus 2 is 7. So if you just exchange the inequality, you will have minus 7 less than or equal to f1 less than or equal to minus 3. Then the largest possible value of f1 is minus 3. So option C is correct. Now if fx equal to e की power x plus e की power minus x and gx equal to mod of cos x plus sin x, then on the interval 0 comma pi by 2, Cauchy's mean value theorem is applicable. Not applicable, not applicable as g prime pi by 4 equal to 0, not applicable as a prime 0 equal to 0. So you just read first the question. So the Cauchy's mean value theorem says that if fx and gx are two functions continuous in a closed interval ab and differentiable in open interval ab, and g prime x does not vanish anywhere inside the interval, then there exists a point c in open interval ab such that fb minus fa by gb minus ga is equal to f prime c by g prime c. So what is gx? Gx is modulus of sin x plus cosine x. So modulus dg dx equal to modulus of sin x plus cos x by sin x plus cos x. This is called signum function. And the derivative of sin x plus cos x is cos x minus sin x. Now you see that cos x minus sin x equals to 0. That means tan x equal to 1. So x equal to pi by 4, that belongs to the interval 0 comma pi by 2. So here Cauchy's mean value theorem is not applicable in 0 comma pi by 2 because you observe that g prime pi by 4 is actually vanishing. So option C is correct. Now which of the following expressions are the indeterminate forms? First of all, the indeterminate form is 0 by 0 and infinity by infinity, because in infinity, hello, anybody had any question? Yes, you are audible. Okay, which of the following expressions are the indeterminate forms? So 0 by 0 and infinity by infinity are the two indeterminate forms. Since infinity to the power infinity is infinity and infinity plus infinity is infinity, these expressions infinity and infinity plus infinity are not indeterminate forms. So option A and D are correct. This question I have already discussed, so I will not discuss again. So the limiting value of e to power x plus e to power minus x minus 2 by 1 minus cos x when x equals to 0 is, so limit x tends to 0, e to power x plus e to power minus x minus 2 by 1 minus cos x. So you just use L'Hopital's rule because here you want to have 0 by 0 sort of indeterminate form, and using L'Hopital's rule you need to take derivative in the numerator, and if you take numerator derivative of the numerator you get e to power x, then there will be one minus sign, minus e to power minus x and minus 2, so the derivative will be 0, and in the denominator 1 minus x, the derivative will be sin x only. So once again you are having 0 by 0 sort of indeterminate form, because if you just put x equals to 0 in the numerator, you want to have e to power 0 minus e to power 0, so that is 0 divided by sin x, that is once again 0. So what you will do L'Hopital's rules once again, and if you use L'Hopital's rule once again, you will have e to power x. If you use L'Hopital's rule once again, you will have this derivative of e to power x is e to power x, derivative of e to power minus x is e to power minus x, and derivative of sin x is cos x. So e to power x plus e to power minus x derivative divided by cos x. Now it is not in the 0 by 0 sort of form. You clearly put x equals to 0. You want to have 1 plus 1 divided by 1. So 1 plus 1 equal to 2. 2 by 1 is equal to 2. So the answer is 2. Now, what?
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Sir, I have a question, sir.
Yes.
In the theory lecture of Laurent's theorem, there was a which said function is differentiable twice. A function is doubly differentiable. What does that exactly mean? Does it mean that the function has degree at least 2 or something other than that?
No. What? See, if function is doubly differentiable means that, so if function is differentiable, what does it mean? It means that f prime x exists. Okay. Now the function is doubly differentiable means you take first derivative fx, derivative of fx, you will have f prime x. Now doubly differentiable means that the function f prime x is also once again derivable. That means you're gonna have f double prime x, which gonna exist, and it does not have anything with 2, degree 2, right? Because I can give you example of some, say, trigonometric functions sin x and cos x. They are all they are all doubly differentiable. In fact they are infinitely differentiable, but they don't have any sort of degree kind of thing, right?
Okay, so this means that once the function is differentiated, then this means that its rate of change is again differentiable. Like it is also continuous in that interval.
Don't go in the rate sort of thing. Just stay stick on the stay stick on the basic. We are not. It just doubly differentiable means I think very in a simpler way. Say you have a function f(x), you take the derivative. If it exists, then f prime x is a function. Now define g equal to f prime x. Okay, now f is doubly differentiable implies g is differentiable. Just that is okay. It does not have its physical interpretation, may be some sort of different, like if you take the rate of change in displacement, you wanna have the velocity, and if you take the rate in the change of velocity, you wanna have the acceleration, right? So and if displacement is ds dt implies velocity, and d2s d2 square implies acceleration. That's why Newton's third law of motion gives m into d2x dt square equal to minus f.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Am I clear?
Yes, sir.
If you have the periodic motion, the differential equation representing periodic motion. What is the differential equation? If it represents the periodic motion, it is d2x dt square equal to omega square x equals to 0. Right? d2x dt square plus omega square x equals to 0. That is actually simple harmonic motion, or SHM, or periodicity. So that is nothing but displacement is in just that acceleration is actually proportional to the displacement. That is why you are getting d2x dt square equal plus omega square x equals to 0. That is the main thing. And now since they some sort of like they oppose one another, or their direction is different, that's why that minus term comes, and that is why d2x dt square equal to minus omega square x. You take the minus omega square x in the left hand side, you will have d2x dt square plus omega square x equals to 0, which is nothing but gives the equation of a particle that moves under the influence of simple harmonic motion, right? Okay. Now what is the value of limit x tends to 0, 3 to power x plus x into to the power 1 by x. Now once again I just discussed that 1 by x you take, whenever you encounter this type of power, you just take logarithm. So if you take logarithm on both sides, you will have ln y, ln means natural logarithm, okay? Ln y equal to 1 by x, ln 3 to power x plus x. Now once again, if x tends to 0, use L'Hopital's rule, because this is in the indeterminate form 0 by 0. Now you take derivative of ln 3x by x is first in the denominator, you will have 3x plus x, and now derivative of 3 to power x plus x. Always don't do mistake like 3 to power x, you take derivative with respect to x and you are writing x into 3 to power x minus 1. Don't do this sort of silly mistakes, because during my bachelor's or even in my 12th I did this sort of mistakes a lot. So don't make this sort of mistakes. So the derivative of 3 to power x with respect to x is actually 3 to power x into ln 3, and the derivative of x is 1. So 3 to power x into ln 3 plus 1 divided by 3 to power x plus x. So now you just apply, there is nothing 0 by 0 sort of thing here, you just put x equals to 0. So in the above numerator you gonna have ln 3 plus 1, and the denominator you gonna have 1. So limit x tends to 0, ln y equal to ln 3 plus ln e. Now ln is a continuous function, you can take the limit inside, and ln 3 1 means ln e, so ln 3 plus ln e is equal to ln into 3. So limit ln and cancel one another, So limit x tends to 0, y equal to 3a. So our answer is 3. Okay. Now it is a bit tedious problem. We just used the Taylor's polynomial of the function fx equal to x minus x cube at x equals to minus 2. So since this is a cubic polynomial, so we're gonna have in the Taylor series only 4 terms, having x to power 0, x to power 1, x to power 2 and x to power 3. So you just determine the derivatives up to 3 terms. You just determine the values up to for minus 2, and you just put in the Taylor's theorem. The Taylor's theorem is just, Taylor's polynomial is just f of minus 2 plus x plus 2 f prime minus 2 plus x plus 2 whole square by 2 factorial f double prime minus 2 plus x plus 2 whole cube by factorial 3 f triple prime minus 2, and all the values you have determined here, 6, minus 11, 12, minus 6. I can do a lot of mistake, so I will upload the note. Please also solve the problems on your own. It will give you a practice, as well as if there are some mistakes you can identify it. Okay, so the values of f of minus 2 is 6. Here it will be, you gonna have f of minus 2 prime minus 2 is minus 11, and x plus 2 whole square by factorial 2, f double prime minus 2 is 12, so factorial 2 is 2, so f double prime minus 2 by 2 will be give you 6, and this x plus 2 whole cube is actually minus 6, and this factorial 3 to 6 cancels one another, and you will have only minus x plus 2 whole cube. So that is option B is the answer. Is it clear?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, you can ask me or you any questions, but I don't know that whether I also have the solution. So you can give me 7 days. So if I don't right now, I can discuss. So in the next class probably I will try to give you some hints, and also you can mail me if you have any questions. If you need my mail ID, I can give you the mail ID, and also you can like if okay, just yes, there is one book called Thomas Calculus. You can follow that book. That book is a very good book actually. Thomas Calculus. This is Thomas Calculus, and also you can follow the book by Piskunov. I forgot the name, but the author name is Piskunov. The calculus written by Piskunov. You can also Piskunov. I forgot the name of the book. Yeah, also you can follow Erwin Krejcik. It is a very nice book. You can follow Erwin Krejcik. It is a very standard book. If you say me specifically for calculus, then Thomas Calculus and the Piskunov's books are really good. But also Erwin Krejcik's books is really fine. Also, like if you have the question, you can share your screen also. You can share your screen. Okay, you can share your screen or discuss with us. We all have a chat. Okay. So you can use that or Thomas Calculus itself, or you can get the PDF from the net itself. I cannot show here because of the copyright sort of thing in the video, but you can actually upload download from the Google. Okay, so next the next problem, the coefficient of x to power 4 in the Maclaurin's expansion of e to power 2x about x equals to 0. Okay, we after today's class we will all have some discussion. Okay, I will definitely discuss about something. And once I like right now I am taking the recording. So once I take the recording, we will have some informal chats. Okay. Okay, so the coefficient of x की power 4 in the Maclaurin's expansion of e की power 2x about 0. So fx equal to e की power 2x and f prime x is, so you need to so yeah, what is the Maclaurin series? Maclaurin series is actually the Taylor series with respect to x equals to 0 itself, right? So you're gonna have f0 plus x f prime 0 plus x square factorial 2 f double prime 0 plus and so on blah blah blah. So for determining the fourth the coefficient of x की power 4, you just determine if the fourth order derivative of fx at the point x equals to 0, and then don't forget to divide by factorial 4. So you see fx equal to e की power 2x, f prime x equal to 2 e की power 2x and f double prime x equal to 2 square e की power 2x. So f mx, if you take mth order derivative, you gonna have 2 to the power m into e की power 2x. So coefficient of x की power 4 will be f4, the fourth order derivative of f at the point x equals to 0. So if fourth order derivative at the point x equals to 0 divided by factorial 4, so you wanna have just put 0 instead of x, you will have 2 की power 4 and instead of m just put 4. So this type of relation called recursive relation, because from 1 to that sort of derivative we have developed a recursive formula. So 2 to the power m into e की power 2x, so fourth order derivative, so 2 की power 4 into e की power 2 into 0, so that will be 1, and 2 की power 4 is 16, and 16 by 24 is actually 2 by 3. So the answer is 2 by 3. So the coefficient of x की power 4 in the Maclaurin's expansion of e की power 2x about 0 is 2 by 3. Now if I ask you a question that what will be the Maclaurin's the expansion of x की power 5 in the Maclaurin's expansion of e की power 2x, can you give me the answer? I have given you the recursive formula for fifth order derivative. So what will be the fifth order derivative of f e की power 2x, the fifth order derivative? Anybody? The fifth order derivative will be
2 to the power 5 into e to the power
yeah 2x. Okay, so what will be the coefficient of x की power 5? It will be just f fifth order derivative at the point x equals to 0 divided by factorial 5, right? And 2 to the power 5 is 32, and 32 divided by 120, so that will give you something 16 by 60, then 8 by 30, and then 4 by 15, right? So that is how you can actually determine the coefficients of Maclaurin's expansion. Okay, so anything you want to ask regarding the session? Any doubt what I have just discussed? Okay, if there are okay, so see, engineering, the calculus is something like there are 4 courses in mathematics. For example, calculus, linear algebra, and differential equation, and probability and statistics. If you go any field in engineering, you will encounter just problems of calculus. Okay, so calculus is something like the foundation stone of any course. Got my point? You are encountering some maximum minimum problem and you have some constraints. Then also the application comes from directly calculus. we will learn during this course also the called Lagrange's multiplier method that will help us to determine maximum minimum. So this is just a basic example, or like differential equations. So I have just given you one example that like engineers, they are always fascinated to solve real world problems, and in real world problems what they simulate just the difference, they form a differential equation and try to simulate the differential equation. And the theory of differential equation is closely related upon calculus. So I think like CA students, yes, for example CS, you people also use a lot of mathematics like Boolean algebra, graph theory, algorithms, right? CS people use lot of mathematics like Boolean algebra and all. So you cannot escape from mathematics. Mathematics will catch you by like one sort or another. Okay, you cannot escape mathematics. Like you cannot escape gravity residing on earth. Once to escape gravity you need a rocket, combustion of fossil fuel. And there is also something mathematics, because in physics, yes, in for which subject you are trying to appear for the NET exam? Maths. Yes, obviously in physics people, you need to solve a lot of mathematics, because physics is and theoretical physics and applied mathematics, they work side by side, and you need to solve mathematics more than mathematics people, because you need to solve all the things in advance, like classical mechanics, the motion of projectile, all the things are governed by simple mathematical equations. And when you go in the quantum mechanics sort of thing, you want to achieve some sort of functional spaces like Hilbert space, all those things, or the Hermite polynomial, Hermite differential equation, when you try to solve the Schrodinger equation. So maths and physics are quite interconnected to one another. And also like you can build upon the course. This calculus course is meant for a foundational purpose, and in the NPTEL platform we have all sort of audience, right? Okay, just let me switch off the then we will discuss maybe. I just switch off the recording.